I did promise this video a few months back, and it's finally here. This video is for fun and it's speculative. It's entirely based on my own observations and my training in translated rhetoric. It's a YouTube video, not a textbook. The release of Eyes Wide Open has very much confirmed for me that it's time to take a deeper look at Twice's writing. Eyes Wide Open is very much a writing album to me, and while I enjoy the production in it, the lyricism is what pushes the boundary within Twice's discography, and 6 of the 13 songs on the album are written solely by members of Twice. Writing is by no means a hard science. There are multiple ways to define a writing style, but I'm going to be using a workable definition adapted from Maureen McHugh's definition of a writing style, which theorizes that there are 2 pillars of writing, style and form, and that a developed lyricist will understand both even if she presents in one more strongly than another. Style, or art, examines lyrics in a literary sense. It's the aesthetic judgment, the individual artistic approach or emotional depth or personal touch that a writer brings to a song's lyrics, and form is the technique and examines lyrics in a sonic sense. Form is the efficiency by which strong lyrics are written compatibly to a song's composition and arrangement, the specificity with which words or syllables are chosen to create rhythm, rhyme, pattern, and poetic subtext through sound. While no member of Twice has published lyrics for a lead single yet, member contribution has expanded from a song credit here and there to nearly half a full studio album. Twice's writing styles are interesting to me because many of them are emerging, not fully developed. Most members of Twice don't have extremely defined styles yet. Just to clarify before we start, I'm using a couple of different translation sites, but the ones that I'm showing on screen come from Color-Coded Lyrics. I like their policies behind translations, and their system is very similar to the one that I use for analyzing translated rhetoric. That said, there is a margin of error, and not all translations are 102% accurate. When it comes to Twice, I believe the members with the strongest presenting writing styles are Chaeyoung and Jihyo. The 2 of them have the most writing credits out of the group, and their lyrics display an understanding of both style and form. Chaeyoung is arguably the most seasoned writer in the lineup with the most credits to her name, but she's really tricky to nail down because she rarely writes songs all by herself. So a lot of my notes are based on songs she's co-written. So let's start by talking about Chaeyoung's prowess. She started publishing for Twice just 7 months after debuting, and she has 11 official songwriting credits as of right now. She's written in Japanese as well as Korean, and she's the only Twice member with standing credits for composing as well as writing. Chaeyoung is a form writer, from what I can feel, which benefits her being a key collaborator. Her writing has very precise syllables and rhythms. Maybe this comes from holding a rapper position, or maybe just a natural attention to phonic details. Chaeyoung seems to focus on sound, writing lyrics that are phonically and syllabically creative. In her style, she often uses emotive statements or unconnected figurative in her lyrics. The speaker often just states what she's feeling. Her lyrics tell you exactly what the song wants you to feel. 'Cause I can't handle Outside of emotive statements, Chaeyoung's poetry is partial to metaphor. I find that when you combine emotive statements and figurative speech, it's usually an attempt to balance each other out, since one is plain statement and the other is slightly more poetic. This is also a typical pattern of JYP's lyrics in Twice, so I wonder if Chaeyoung didn't have some sort of mentorship from JYP in her earlier stages, or if she's just reflecting the kind of singles that Twice records. Chaeyoung's writing doesn't skip subtext altogether, but I would argue it's just not what she focuses on either. What Chaeyoung really loves is sound. She's focused on linking together the best sounds and syllables for matching the hook of a song or creating poetic connections through sound. Take Handle It, for example. Stylistically, the song is a collection of various emotionally similar images, but they aren't connected or designed to build off of each other. What Chaeyoung is really linking together is the sound of the poetry, not the literary content. She has this gorgeous phrase for useless or no good right at the beginning of the second line. It has a strong S at the start, two very round O sounds, one of which is tempered by an N. In the next line, the speaker asks the lover to basically take some responsibility, put your hands on it and answer it. In the lyrics, Chaeyoung opens the line with this word for hands that starts with, again, a strong S and a round O sound tempered by an N. So these two ideas, uselessness and putting hands on responsibility, are connected by sound. Chaeyoung is sonically connecting the lover's useless excuses with the concept of taking responsibility. Her rhyme schemes are some of the most developed in Twice. She loves to lace sub-rhymes in her lines, or to trade off AB rhymes with tapped rhymes or slanted rhymes. You can often hear blurred vowels between each line in her writing, and I don't think this is always done with poetic intention. Sometimes I think it's done just because it sounds good. Another way of emphasizing an idea through form is by pattern. Chaeyoung has these long lines of fast-running syllables, but right at the end she has this simple final phrase, "Don't pretend you don't know." This line sits outside the regular pattern of the other lines, which is going to emphasize it against the rest of the stanza. She loves audible links, connecting ideas in her lyrics by choosing syllables and phonemes that sonically reflect each other. Okay, I'm just going to stop it really quick to point something out. This section is almost perfectly written in iambic tetrameter when it's in Korean and trochaic tetrameter when it's in English, so they're like opposites of each other. I just think that's so cool. These are emotive statements where the speaker's feelings are, again, textual, but the design of the line is in the rhyme scheme and the pattern of syllables. The songs Chaeyoung contributes to often present short, tasteful lines that stack against each other. Again, this is similar to how JYP writes lyrics for Twice, and it's a very effective style for girl pop and dance pop. Chaeyoung writes extensively about the coming-of-age experience, and her songs track the journey of a young girl becoming a young woman. When she's contributing lyrics, I think she's drawn to songs with mature, feminine themes. Her love songs are sweeter, her empowerment songs are encouraging rather than badass, and her speakers are usually coming to terms with painful or hidden emotions, so the lyrics are less intense and more introspective. Songs like Strawberry and Handle It are more about lying in wait than action. Chaeyoung displays a wide emotional range in her writing, and I'd love to see her write more songs independently as her style develops. Jihyo is the one I'd identify as the next most experienced writer in Twice. Jihyo is a style writer, and when she writes, her narrator's mentalities are so well written, it's almost like you are that person. So finally we come to subtext. Subtext is a huge part of writing in any art form, and it's one of the trickier parts to master. Jihyo is very good at it. She's a huge fan of indirect characterization. Her songs exemplify emotions through descriptions of action, behavior, and mentality. I want to start with Up No More. Up No More is a very well-crafted song about intrusive thoughts and internalized guilt. The narrator's experience is described to us in terms of behaviors and mentality. Jihyo never has to say, "I feel guilty," for us to understand the mentality the narrator is living with, the way she sees the world, and the emotions that she's burdened by. All she has to say is, "I don't want to be up no more," and we immediately know that the speaker is losing sleep. This is the writing policy of show, don't tell. Successful subtext leaves what's really being said behind the surface and contextualizes emotions in ways that are not perfectly straightforward. Subtext conveys to us what a person is feeling by showing instead of telling. This is different from using metaphor, since metaphors figuratively compare the direct feeling itself to something else. Where Chaeyoung prefers metaphor in statements, Jihyo is cognizant of indirect characterization. She writes about the actions, behaviors, and mentalities that make up a character or situation. You know those days when you can't stop thinking about something painful no matter how hard you try, and you realize you're gonna have to get up tomorrow and do it again, and the day after that, and the day after that? In writing terms, Jihyo is approaching the conflict from the subtext. Jihyo doesn't spoon-feed the audience, and she ups the tone by letting us pursue an underlying meaning. Its lyrics don't sound anything like what its lyrics are about. It's tonally hot and bouncy, but the diction describes being eaten alive. In Ho, we get this literary text about measuring the exact steps you watch each day, obsessively checking the weather, spinning around like an idiot. And the subtext is love. I mean, yes, she does say that out loud, but that's more for beat effect than externalizing emotion. In Girls Like Us, text is the detailed descriptions of daydreaming, the parallels drawn between running free and releasing fear, and the subtext is girls should be free to grow up however they want. Get Loud is a little different since she co-wrote it with JQ, and I can't say for sure which lyrics belong solely to her, but the song as a whole is built on subtext, actions, behaviors, mentalities, indirect characterization, and most importantly, the choices made by the speaker and the speaker's antagonist. Since subtext tends to build on itself gradually, her lyrics are best consumed all together. On the other hand, when it comes to form, Jihyo has a pattern of mid-measure repetition, and this is done for artistic effect as well as grammatical. She enjoys long descriptions that bleed into each other, where Chaeyoung is usually the opposite, short lines that stack against each other. Jihyo's lyrics tend to be intense and passionate. Her songs are vivid and fearless and are largely first-person action and self-reflection rather than speaking to an exterior audience. Jihyo tends to do an extremely in-depth character study of one specific struggle or emotion, whereas Chaeyoung does a much larger, more guided tour of multiple connected experiences within a song. One isn't better than the other, they're just doing different things, and it is nice to look at the two of them because they are somewhat two sides of the same coin. Unlike Chaeyoung, Jihyo suffers more in terms of form. Because her writing is tailored to externalizing emotion, I think she has the tendency to overwrite and thus has to jam words together or cut them up. Jihyo is an example of writing too much at once, and while it can be very beautiful, sometimes it costs her a hook. She'll write just a bit more than a line can take, and the line gets either crammed into the measure or gets broken up over several, and it can sound rather weird. As of right now, Jihyo is more interested or more experienced in conveying style rather than form. So she and Chaeyoung contrast very nicely. They still both write great songs, but one is very strong in form and the other is very strong in style. The next most active TWICE members are Jeongyeon, Nayeon, and Dahyun, who each have 5 writing credits as of now. Jeongyeon has 2 solo works, Love Line from Twice2gram and LaLaLa from Yes or Yes. Oddly, I feel that Jeongyeon's style is the one I struggle the most to get my hands around. Her style feels pretty standard for pop writing, meaning she focuses on rhymes and catchiness, but she's also not too cliché. She has an understanding of both form and style, but she doesn't really present in one area or the other. Loveline is mostly a list of the narrator's thoughts about her love interest. Jeongyeon has the same tic as Jihyo, where sometimes she overwrites and her lyrics have to step over themselves to fit, but she still writes catchy stuff. Before we get into Sweet Talker, I saw a video a while ago where Chaeyoung said something along the lines of Jeongyeon started the lyrics for Sweet Talker, but after Chaeyoung joined, they finished the song together. Sweet Talker is also pretty much a catalog of the narrator's thoughts about the love interest, and the lyrics are pretty typical of a K-pop B-side, but that issue with contraction is largely fixed. This song has stronger form, and whether that's due to Chaeyoung's influence or Jeongyeon's development, I'm not sure, but I think they add to each other's assets. By LaLaLa, Jeongyeon has added action and setting description to her lyrics. The form of LaLaLa is very rhythmic and builds on repetition, so lines like clap your hands and let's go crazy are just more fitting of a party song. The purpose is rhythm, not imagery, but Jeongyeon continues to balance both, which I really do like in her writing. From her solo work, I think Jeongyeon is walking the line between form and style, and because her comfort in writing is still emerging, I think this could be unconscious. Sweet Summer Day finally picks up on some of the poetic style lacking in the other songs. This song was also written with Chaeyoung. Sweet Summer Day has some of these gorgeous sensory lines, and I think if Jeongyeon wants to continue writing, she could end up being a very balanced writer. Nayeon has 3 solo credits, and her first lyrics were published in 2017. I really like her writing. She's got such a sincere tone and a very distinct sense of form. I think Nayeon's style is one that you can easily identify in TWICE. I also think her lyrics are mostly inspired by her own life, and I really enjoy her rhythm patterns, particularly in her more recent work. Her writing is so honest and personable, and that makes her songs really easy to relate to. Her style suits idol music really well, and she's got a handle on all the tropes of pop lyrics. I think she's developing stronger and stronger hooks, but the bones are already there.
Don't need nobody else when I feel that's good. Ain't nobody around, do it like you should. Do it, do it, do it, do it. Yeah, you make me go. Love me now, love me good. You make me go. Don't need nobody else when I feel that's good. You make me go. Ain't nobody around, do it like you should. 여기 봐, 난 해치지 않아. 다가와도 괜찮아. 고개 들어, 주위를 둘러봐. 어디 봐도 나잖아. Yeah.
Nayeon's grip on rhythm is really well developed in her two most recent songs. I just think she's a natural when it comes to form, and she's already showing increasing creativity with her word choice. Her artistry is still a bit reliant on pop tropes and cliches, and she doesn't really write outside of her own immediate worldview, but her sincerity more than makes up for it. Dahyun mostly co-wrote her lyrics until Eyes Wide Open, where she wrote 2 songs by herself. She co-wrote Missing You with Chaeyoung in 2017, and later Trick It with JQ in 2019. I think her writing definitely benefited from collaboration with other writers before delving into her own songwriting. I'd argue she presents more strongly as a form and sound writer than a style and imagery writer, and I think she has great technique for rhythms. She has this innate sense for theme and hook, and she also loves witty one-liners. Her lyrics have a lot of cheek, and they're quite smart, and I think Dahyun, like Chaeyoung, enjoys metaphor and analogy.
Just a shout to the scenery.
Dahyun, in my opinion, is one of the funniest members in Twice, and her songs have these great bends of humor that can be rare in pop writing, so they're always super funny to listen to. Then there's Momo and Sana, who each have 4 contributions to Twice. So far, Momo has only co-written lyrics, whereas Sana developed the lyrics for Do What We Like by herself. Like Jeongyeon, Momo seems to have a grip on style and form. Now this is purely speculation, but I think her lyrics are likely developed after the main sound of a song is developed. And where I am sure that is the case with a lot of Twice songs, I think Momo's writing seems to serve the sound of a song more than the other members' writing. In this way, I think she could go either way, style or form. That's going to be something to look at the more she writes independently. But I do think that her style is less poetic and more chic, and I think her songs have some very fashionable writing. Her themes are very sophisticated, and while the songs do eke out a line here and there, the lyrical content is usually pretty solid. These are the kind of components that make Hot one of my favorite B-sides in Twice, because that combination of style and form is kept in such good balance. Sana has mostly done collaborative writing, but she wrote the song Do What We Like off of Eyes Wide Open by herself. From the limited content available, I think Sana is sort of like the opposite to Nayeon. She seems to be a natural for artistic writing, even if her form is underdeveloped. Her lines have some inconsistencies or clunkiness here and there. However, her artistic writing is stellar.
물속에서 막힌 귀를 뚫고 소려와 나 부르는 목소리가 저 물결을 타고 나를 향해서 점점 다가오는 말 눈 감고도 느껴져 낯설기도 하지만이 익숙한 느낌 이유 같은 건 없어 믿고는 해도 나 Cause I know how this feels.
There is gorgeous figurative language and visual imagery in Do What We Like. Sana pays attention to these sensory details with such clear development that it makes me think she's been doing this a lot more behind the scenes. She weaves together poetics and cliches in a way that suits Twice's current style. With more experience, I think Sana could absolutely become one of the style powerhouses in Twice. Finally, neither Mina nor Tzuyu have written songs by themselves. Mina co-wrote Shot Through the Heart with the rest of the J line, and all of the members of Twice wrote for 2129, but because of this, I don't really have a sense of their patterns or styles, and frankly, that's fine. Not everyone needs to be a songwriter, and if they release more lyrics in the future, I'd be super excited to see how they develop. Nonetheless, Twice as lyricists continue to fascinate me. I love the way that they're developing their own styles instead of just writing all similarly to each other or similarly to JYP, which could have easily happened. Every member who's written seems to be taking her time to create her own judgment and her own aesthetic vision of songwriting. That's why I think Twice's lyrics can sometimes be so honest and so close to the audience. We're actually witnessing the diary of their world put to music. And that's why I think watching the development of their writing styles is going to be a real honor, especially since a lot of the members seem to have a genuine passion for writing for themselves. Anyway, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys very, very soon.